Okay, on today's Stubby wrench, we're going to do exactly the wrong thing, but we're going to hope it works. So let me explain what's going on here. Now this engine in my truck here, it's getting a little old and tired, and it's got some blow-by issues, although not horrible. It doesn't just coat the valve cover with a ton of oil or anything like that, but it's got a little bit. It's got over 200,000 miles on the bottom end, and it's got some issues. One of the things is that's come up lately is the adhesive on the China wall gasket at the rear of the manifold has let go. So what I end up with is it blew the China wall gasket out, and I can show you that I got chunks of it here that were blown out. And I had originally just kind of tried to stuff this back in, but I could only get it in a little bit. So I don't have, the right way to do this would be just pull the manifold, you know, put new gaskets in it, seal it all back up and everything. So the reason I'm not doing that is because this truck is my daily driver. I drive it to work every day. So I need to have it back on the road. I don't have a set of gaskets for it, nor do I have the time today before I have to go to work tomorrow to do everything that entails pulling a manifold on an FE engine. If you don't know FE Ford engines, the intake manifold actually goes down underneath the valve cover and makes up a lot of the intake side of the head. One of the things that means is that all the push rods for all the valve train go through the intake manifold. So when you pull the intake manifold on an FE engine, along with draining the water and everything else, you also have to pull the valve train to get all the push rods out. So just not something I'm prepared to do today. So what we're going to attempt to do is clean up that China wall area really well, where the gap is, then put a small layer of RTV along the China wall and the manifold so that we make sure we have coverage on all that area, and then we're going to lay a bead of silicone in there. Now I know you don't have to comment to me that that's a really wrong way of doing it. I'm aware of that, but like I said, I need this truck, and it will literally puke a quart of oil out in 60 miles in its current state. And so we're going to go ahead and give it a shot, and then we'll revisit it in a couple of days, and I'll let you know how it worked, and I'll let you know if it worked. So in the meantime, we'll get this done, and then we can order the proper gaskets and everything to do the job right. So first is going to just take some paper towels and brake cleaner and just make sure there is no oil in that area, because we want to make sure that we're sticking everything. Also, I already did this on here, but that adhesive, it ends up being like a little piece of plastic wrap in there. Make sure you get that out if this has happened to you. So what's funny is the first time this happened, I actually saw a post from, I think it was Hot Rod Magazine. It's either that or Roadkill, one of those two, that said, hey, never use that adhesive backed that adhesive backing on the gasket. It'll always fail eventually. Sure enough, thought the timing was very serendipitous because I hadn't posted anything about it yet. And so, all right, we got that cleaned up. Now we're going to go ahead and get something to spread a little RTV in there. So in this case, I'm using Ultra Black. So maximum oil resistance is what I'll be using down here. I was debating between ultra black and ultra gray, and I think if I had the manifold off, I would probably use ultra gray, but for some reason this just felt like a better choice. If anybody works for Permatex and wants to tell me what would be the right choice for doing this, that would be awesome. So I'm just taking it, I put it on a screwdriver so that I can get it in that gap and just make sure I cover all of it. I'm going to do this a few times just to make sure I get coverage, because what I really want to do is just make sure that the entire manifold and China wall in that gap are covered, so that I don't leave any holes or anything in there. This slathered through. I'm going to continue doing it a little bit at a time. The other thing you're going to want to do, just to make sure if you do something like this, is to clean everything once it's done, so you can ensure that there's no leak. Because if your time is limited like me, you know, everything has a priority list. Doesn't matter what it is, it's a priority list. And if you're like me, you know, if this holds its seal, then pulling the manifold off and replacing the gasket is going to go lower on the priority list, just because there's other things to work on. So, and those things may have a higher or lower priority, depending on what they are. So when your daily driver is broken, it's a high priority. When it's even if it's fixed shoddily like this, if it's fixed, you know, just being realistic, it's going to drop the priority of it a bit. So. Not the way this should be, not the way it should be, but it is the way it is. And I think a lot of people out there, even though they'd like to do everything 100% right, they will agree that sometimes you just can't do it 100% right. And when you do, you just do the best you can. So, all right, I feel like that's done pretty well. So I'm going to clean this off before it dries on my screwdriver. And for the rest of this, I really want to make sure I know it's in there, so I'm actually just going to stuff it into the gap with my finger so that I can feel where it's going and where it isn't. So what I will do is come back here with a paper towel real quick and clean it all up. And then one of the new features we have, because it's a modern world, I got my cell phone right here and I can shoot a little video back there and see if it's all plugged up. So I'll work on just wiping the excess off the block and manifold right now so I can get an idea of what the bead actually looks like in there. And take my phone here and shoot a quick video, see if it looks usable. So just go down here and shoot a video of that spot. All right. Well, that's what we got. Like I said, this is definitely not the right way to do this job, but if you have something you need on the road quickly and you don't have time to do it right, sometimes just do the best thing you can. And you know, if I drive this thing all week and there's no smoke pouring out of it again, I'm going to feel pretty good about that. Also, once it's cured up, I'm going to go back there with brake clean, clean off all the back of the engine so that when I run my hand down there, I don't find any oil whatsoever. That way, daily, I can just go in there and check it. I can just wipe back of the cylinder heads and the back of the block when I get home. And if I don't find any oil on it, then, you know, it's sealed up pretty good. So, because I'd really like to know about it before oil starts puking out, because it does, whenever it leaks, it drains it right onto the exhaust. So, so it does puke oil everywhere when that China wall isn't sealed up. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Stubby Wrench. Let me know if you have any comments or what I could do to make the show better, or if you have any other ideas. Just go ahead and message them to me on the comments section of the video, and I'd love to see them. Until next time, see you around.